Hi, Tay. I'm so excited for you to be on Women in the Nude. If you guys don't know Tay Lautner, then you're silly. She is an amazing person. Not only is she married to one of my childhood friends, but in general, she's just so warm and welcoming and has so many wonderful things to say about mental health. And she is the podcast host of The Squeeze with her husband, Taylor Lautner. You might know him. Tay, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm great. I'm excited. This is so
Good.
fun.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on here. I was just on The Squeeze as well, and it was so fun. And I loved getting to chat with you guys.
Yeah,
Um,
likewise.
yeah, well, I guess I one thing I really want to know is what made you want to start The Squeeze?
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a long story, but I'll make it short. So mental health has always been a big part of my life, but never personally affected me. I've had a lot of family members struggle with addiction. One of my good friends, he had bipolar. He committed suicide. And so
So
there was a
sorry.
lot of like mental health things in my life, but I never really struggled with anything until I worked as a COVID nurse.
Mm.
I'm a nurse. I worked in the hospital, and our unit turned COVID during the first like flu season. And that, as you can imagine, kind of put me through the ringer. So after that, I left that with severe PTSD and anxiety and depression. And when I left the hospital, I was like, I want to do something. I want to give back. You know, I have this platform of social media. I want to help people because there's so many people struggling right now. So I started a mental health blog called Lemons by Tay. And then that mental health blog turned into a nonprofit called the Lemons Foundation. And then one morning I woke up and I was like, babe, I think we need to do a podcast. And that's kind of how the squeeze came to be.
I love that. And I'm so sorry in that way that you had to go through those traumatic experiences to get here. But that is, the beauty of being able to share is we can all kind of relate and create that community. I think that's really special. Yeah, COVID was it was just so stressful in so many different ways, and it reached so far. I know my family in South Africa, they had a completely different experience to us here. Um,
Mm.
and it's just refreshing to hear, from you being in that world, and being able to kind of make it into the other side and want to reach out to other people. Um, do you feel like you were equipped for that at the time? Like, was it something that was shocking, or did you only realize like the effects of it afterwards, if that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely all of the above. Definitely was not equipped for it. They don't teach you about how to handle global pandemics
Right.
in our school. So that was very like unprecedented times. So you when you start nursing, you like precept for a few months. You're with someone, you follow them, and they kind of follow you. You make sure you're all good, and then I went to night shift and then started on my own. And my first time on my own, we upped our patient ratios. So instead of 4 patients, I had 5. And our charge nurse, who is, person who's running the unit, who, especially for new grads we go to, we're like, hey, can you help us put this in someone or help us do this? She was in the monitor room because I worked on a cardiac floor, and all of our patients had heart monitors on because they all needed to be monitored a little closer than other patients. So she was in there. So I was literally all by myself with, instead of 4 patients, it was 5, going in and out of these rooms that literally were like a war zone. And because we had doubled up our rooms and they were not built to be double rooms. So our rooms were doubled. Every time you go in a room, you have to put like your gown, your mask, your other mask, your shield, double gloves, and then you come out, you take it all off, and then you re-put it all on and go back into the next room. So that was just like a very big cycle of that. And we were short staffed as well because we had such an influx of patients. And so on my nights off, my manager would be texting me and be like, can you just like come in and just do vitals at like 2 a.m.? So I would, because I felt bad for those nurses because I knew what it was like
Right.
to be on the other side of it. And I didn't really realize that anything was wrong with me because the nurse mentality is great because nurses are like such hard workers. But I think it kind of backfires in situations like these when like you just don't ask questions. You just like go. You just do it because people's lives are on the line. So you don't like think twice about like if you have to go pee or whatever it may be, how you're mentally doing. We're not even thinking about peeing. So I can't even fathom thinking about my mental health in that moment. So it took probably like a couple months of that. And my husband and I were in the car together and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired. Like I worked the past couple nights, whatever." And he was like, "No, but are you actually okay?" And I was like, "Huh, that's a good question." And then the conversation just kind of ended there. Like nothing, we didn't say anything else, but it honestly just took him like bringing that up to me for me to be like, okay, let's like kind of assess what's going on here because if Taylor's asking me this, like I'm definitely like he's seeing something that there's actually like something going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I can't even imagine. Is that something that was hard on your relationship? Like did it affect, the way that you guys were normally handling things together?
I mean, it definitely did. Honestly, more so just the hours, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a lot of things. But like me working nights, like I get home before Taylor's like I get home at like 7:30. I eat my dinner, which is breakfast, and then I crawl in the bed and Taylor's either just waking up or still sleeping. And then by the time I wake up, he's eating dinner. So my breakfast is his dinner, and then I leave for work. So it's just like we just didn't really see each other a lot. And he was just a saint during that time. And he did not want me taking this job. I wasn't going to take it originally because I was just going to work outpatient, do surgeries and whatnot because I didn't want to work in the hospital. And, if Taylor does something and is gone for 3 months, I don't want to have, I want to be able to go with him, something that doesn't work holidays, but everything closed because there was no elective surgeries during COVID. So I was like, I'm going to apply to this one hospital. I really liked it in nursing school and I got it. And Taylor was like, I'm going to support you, but this is not going to be fun for me. But he was so sweet. He'd like always have, breakfast, dinner, whatever it was for me. He'd always like have a little note in my lunchbox or whatever I would bring to work. So he was really, really helped me kind of like get through those, even just the hours alone. But yeah, it definitely took me, I definitely kind of like backed out of life, like come to find out now, knowing that I've like still struggle with this, but my like form of coping with the trauma was to just dissociate. So I really wasn't present at all for like a good 6 months. So I think that's why he kind of brought it up to me. So it didn't take much. I mean, it did take a toll on it, but like we weren't fighting. We weren't,
Right.
It was just like a really big time for us kind of just to be apart because we never were apart. We were always together. So just kind of like figuring that out.
Yeah. That's a hard thing to navigate. And then you add trauma and a pandemic to that. And it's a lot.
Yeah.
Having like a supportive partner is essential. I can't imagine like not having Hudson and I'm not, I'm not saving lives, it's just work and I love it, but still it's those hours are just, they're just insane. And you add all that stress to it and it's hard. What made you want to get into nursing school or just nursing in general?
It's a good question. I don't even really know exactly. I actually, when I first went to college, I went to college for dance. I danced my whole life. So I went as a dance major because I was the first person in my family to go to college. And so my parents were like, you do whatever you want to do. I don't know, because they didn't know what was going on. So I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I love dance, so I'm going to go. And just like I got into the school, I'm going to go do that. I did it for a semester and I ended up hating it because it kind of took all the joy out of dance for me because I was literally being graded on like my everything. Like all of my dance turned into grades instead of like my outlet. I was also like dancing 40 hours a week. I only had one night free a week. It was a lot. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go home and like figure out what I want to do because I don't want to stay here and waste a bunch of money and have student debt while I'm away at school. So I ended up going home and went to community college that's by my parents, and nursing kind of just like fell in my lap. I kind of just decided to do it. I'd volunteered like at the hospital by us in high school, actually, ironically, like in the labor and delivery unit. And that is like my worst nightmare. I hated that rotation. I could never do that again. I literally told Taylor we can't have children until I forget what a birth looks like.
That's fair.
So,
Yep.
so that was kind of like the only introduction into nursing. But the only thing I ever liked in school was like anatomy and physiology. I was in like the AP class in high school and was like the teacher's assistant because I loved it so much. So that was literally, I never liked school until I got into nursing school. And I was like, this is the most fun thing ever.
Yeah.
So weird. But I never really like, no one in my family's a nurse. I don't really know. It just like happened.
It's so cool. I have actually quite a few friends that are nurses and they love it. And they talk about that whole process, how school was so challenging because it demands all of your time, like a lot of things that you study, but it's exhausting. And then you go into the job and you have those crazy hours and you know, you're faced with all these real life situations, and nurses do so much. I think people forget how involved a nurse is in your care. We always think of doctors, but really nurses are keep it going. I mean, it's wild. And the labor and delivery unit, I obviously have had a kid, and I can't imagine looking at it from the other side. I don't really want to. I remember Hudson was like, yeah, I never need to do that again. I'll always be on your side, but I don't think I ever need to see that again.
I told Taylor, I was like, I don't want to be on the receiving end of that. No. I don't want to see the receiving end. The top end I'll see, not the receiving one. I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame him. We had friends that told him, man, it's like, you know, it's a miracle, which it is. It's a miracle. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. And so he like kind of peeked over and it's like, nope, didn't need to see that. Yeah, it's an amazing thing that your body does, but it's really gross. I mean, it's incredible what happens to your body. It's not necessarily something that you want your spouse to see either, or your partner to see. It's like, you know, it's crazy. What I will say about a good friend of mine whose husband is a nurse, she's in the entertainment industry. She's a makeup artist, and they have 4 little kids. And you know, their life is very, very full. And the cool thing is that they understand each other's hours. So I think that's a big thing, you know, in our industry. We work such long hours. Like I got off at 5 a.m. this morning on a Saturday. We call them Fraturdays. And you know, her husband gets it because it's so intensive. He does that. He does those hours and those overnights, and it's just it's intense. So I'm sure that also helps with Taylor because he knows what those hours are like. And for you both, when he's filming it, it's one of the biggest things in our business is like your partner not understanding what that's like. So I'm sure that's helpful for you guys. And yeah, it's a crazy thing, but thankfully we have people like you who are committed to helping people. And that's thank God. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing your job. I really, really couldn't. I had a girlfriend who was a nurse at the time. And she saved somebody's life on the freeway. There was a horrific crash in front of her, and she was able to stop in time, and it involved a motorcyclist, and she saved his life in the middle of this busy freeway. And so scary. I mean, she could have died, you know, it could have been so much worse. And that was on her way to work. That's how she started her day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing. Are you still practicing? Do you still
I'm not anymore. I had to leave the hospital because it was just a little too much mentally on me and I needed a little bit of time to heal.
Totally.
I am keeping up with my license. I'm still like doing all my continuing education and stuff because it's part of my identity, but also like, you never know, once like I'm a mom, I want to go back and do something. There's just so many things you can do as a nurse. Like it's not just hospital. There's so many jobs. So, you know, you never know. Yeah. So I'm keeping up with it just in case, but I'm not in the hospital right now.
Yeah. You I mean, I hope anyway. I'm going to tell you this, like, you should be so proud. You did such an amazing thing, no matter if you know, end up doing it later or not. Do you have maybe like a hard time with that? Like, are you able to feel like proud of what you've done, or is it just kind of, you know, it's something that you loved and it is what it is?
I think I'm proud of it. I don't take compliments well. So when people are like, "Thank you so much for what you did," I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you, welcome." But no, I definitely learned a lot about myself during that time, and I learned how strong of a person I am during that, and just like now working through everything that kind of happened. But at the end of the day, I'm so thankful for it because I have gotten to do so many things, from having mental health struggles to having lemons to my foundation to now the podcast. And it's just like, it's been really cool to be able to, you know, help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I actually, my husband and I were just talking about how we are trying to get better at taking compliments. I get so awkward, like it makes me sweaty, and I'm like, and anyway, and he was listening to this speaker who was talking about it and how we're doing ourselves a disservice. That it's so important to be okay with somebody appreciating you, and like letting that kind of sit, as uncomfortable as it could be. It's like, you know, you're being recognized for something. Let yourself be recognized for that. Give yourself that moment. And it's not, you know, it's not like selfish or vain to accept that compliment. And that's an interesting way of thinking about it, because it's hard to do that. And maybe if you are super good at it, there's another issue. But yeah, I do. I know that feeling. I get all like, oh, okay, and move on, and let's talk about something else. Or I'm self-deprecating. I think that's often the like go-to is like to make a light of it, to make a joke of it, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I think it is important to be able to recognize in yourself those good things that you're doing. Because I feel like naturally we're always just hypercritical of ourselves. And it's a nice reminder. As I'm saying this, I'm a hypocrite because I definitely have not mastered it. I'm still very much like, and anyway, let's continue. Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to like kind of let that go and you know, be okay with the good things that you're doing. So I hope that you start taking those compliments to heart and know how great that is and all the good things that you're doing. Has social media impacted you on, you know, on mental health? Like, is it, I know like using social media as a platform for the Squeeze and your foundation, and that is it's such a great asset, but has that also had like that flip side negativity, especially being in the public eye in lots of ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of inevitable for it not to have a negative effect on you. Honestly, since the beginning of Taylor and I's relationship, I've just kind of like set a wall up of like not really like looking at comments or like looking into stuff. Just because I'm like, I just don't care. Like, I don't want to know what people are saying, like good or bad, because I think it'll like have an effect on me. Taylor always says like I'm way better than him at it. Like, he's the one that's like writing comments. I'm like, no, stop. And it's so funny because our like followers know that I'm not really good at reading comments. I've tried to get better at like interacting because that's fun.
Right.
But yeah, obviously the opinions are one thing, but we'll have people comment and be like, I know you're never going to see this because you don't look at your comments. But I'm like, okay, now it's getting to a point I need to start looking at it. But I mean, of course it does. I think there's always that comparison aspect to social media. Not even just like look wise, but like now that social media is like a job, you look at it as, oh, like this creator is pushing out this much content, this creator is doing this content and looks really good, like I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And it's not even necessarily like a look thing, even though that's definitely something that I've struggled with before. But now it kind of turns into a bigger thing of like comparing and literally like work wise. So that's definitely something that I've had to just be like, that's not fully my lane. That is their lane. I'm not going to be posting on TikTok like 3 times a day. I can't barely even do once a week. So I'm just going to like be okay with that and move on. But I feel like the biggest thing for me with social media is like the dissociation of it. And that's something that I struggle with. So I have to be intentional with my time because it's so easy to literally just scroll on TikTok and then you're like, oh, 40 minutes just went by. Like,
Yeah.
where'd the time go? And that's something that I will catch myself doing often, that I'm like, okay, you need to stop. You're wasting time. You are dissociating, and that's not healthy for you. So that's probably like the biggest thing that I kind of struggle with social media, is just like the getting locked into it, because they know how to hook you in there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, comments are a hard thing for me as well. I used to really pay attention to them, and I did. I went through a phase where I just like didn't look at anything, and then it's like that. Well, no, you should, because your engagement. And I think that's the other problem with like where, at least me personally, where I'm at, looking at it from a business perspective. I think you also get into like a rut of like almost dehumanizing. And now I look at
Mm-hmm.
it like oh no, I get to connect with these people, and I have to do my best to overlook the bad things, but it's so special to connect with the people that are really trying to engage with you. I think what's been nice
Yeah.
about like the Women in the Nude Instagram channel is that, or Instagram handle, is that I can like actually connect with people specifically on mental health, or like, whatever we're focusing on. And for the most part, it's super positive. It's building this community versus my personal one, which is just like a load of, everyone with every opinion blurting out no matter what they feel. It's like, it's a totally different experience. It's a totally different vibe. Um,
Yeah.
and that's hard. It's like picking you apart no matter what you post. And I know we all experience that in one way or another, but social
Yeah.
media is, it's difficult. I have so much respect for those influencers that have it as their job, like you say, that are posting 3 TikToks, that are, actively doing something every single day. It's exhausting. And
Yeah.
it's like trying to keep up with it is kind of impossible for me. The TikTok thing, when you said that made me laugh, because I'm also not really a TikTok person. I have so many friends that love it and are just either on it posting or are just, yeah, looking at it all the time. And I always get sent stuff from them, and it takes me like a week to look at all of them. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I'm like, oh no, am I just getting old? Am I just not keeping up with it? I feel like I need to be better with that.
That's funny.
But like juggling the business side of social media and the human side of it, both positive and negative, is something that you're kind of like forced into. I have friends that have totally taken social media off of their phones completely,
Mhm.
and I'm proud of them for that. I know I can't for so many reasons, but um,
Yeah.
I also get so much information from Instagram, or whatever social media platform you like. Like I I see so many things that I wouldn't if I didn't, and cross referencing, investigating into things, and the things that you care about that you should, and the things that you shouldn't. It's such a melting pot of negative and positive energy, that, like you were saying, like just self-regulating yourself is just so difficult, and putting on like your business cap and then your like personal kind of decompressing cap, and like right before you go to bed you're just like scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, and it has become such a big part of our lives. And here we are with the podcast, which is connected to all of it. And you just kind of hope that you put some positive vibes out there, and that, that people get something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. Is there like a time where, with like the squeeze or your foundation, that you were kind of like got the confirmation that people were responding, and that you're helping people, you're creating that community? Was there like a moment, or someone's like said something to you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's like, I think maybe the first like blog post I put out on Lemons by Tay, after that, I actually had a lot of people message me and were just like, hey, like a lot of nurses in the beginning, because it was I was talking a lot about nursing in the beginning because I was just sharing my story. And so many nurses and people that weren't nurses were just like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling like the same thing. Like I felt so alone, like I feel heard. Um, and that's kind of just continued on through this when I'll get messages and people will like tell me their life story and just how much like the squeeze has helped them and whatever way it is. And I try to like screenshot them. I don't really read like my message requests, but I glance at them every so often and I try to screenshot those to just like remind myself on days when I'm like, I'm tired. I don't really feel like doing this. Obviously, like it's important for me to take rest time, but the amount of people that are just like influenced by it, I'm, I just feel so honored that I get to be a part of people's like healing journey and, just starting the conversation of mental health because I feel like since COVID, it has been a large conversation because so many of us struggle with it now. But there needs to just be the next step conversation of like, like what to do. Like it's not just woo mental health. It's like okay, but what next? Like that. Let's talk about that part. So that's something that I'm really passionate about and that I've really seen the community just respond to. So I just feel so lucky that I get to do this.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I totally relate to that. I totally feel the same way. It's wild to be able to hear other people's stories and just that worldwide feeling of connecting with people that are not just in the U.S. that you're it's like a worldwide community is such a every now and then still a crazy concept to me that we can do that and that we have the opportunity to do that. Did you ever have like and this is a hypocritical question as well because I don't have like the perfect answer for myself, but did you have a moment of like wow, I love who I am. I'm a badass, like that like realization that you're a cool person, if you will.
I think maybe with the podcast just like launching it and getting it ready, maybe I think that, or just like this little brand that I've kind of built of lemons. Like I'm not a business person. I don't know anything about business, like nothing. um and it's been really cool to like learn everything and just like figure it out. um I think a really cool moment was Taylor and I recently did press in New York. And we did a bunch of talk shows and we did Today Show and we did a couple other things. And that was like my first time ever on TV, which is funny because that's literally like normal for Taylor to do all these things. And I think it was like the day before we were leaving. I was like, I've never done this before. Like it didn't hit me until we were about to leave. I was like, I've never done this before. And Taylor was like, oh, yeah, you haven't. And I think that kind of moment was pretty cool that this podcast is something that I've been able to build with my husband and we've just been able to like help people. So I think maybe that was kind of cool. Just like getting to be on like live TV. Like that's not what I do. So that was a fun moment.
Absolutely. I think that's a great moment. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being on TV is a weird thing, actually. Like filming is different. You're in such this like little bubble and you're creating this thing with so many different people and it takes a village. And then press is a totally different animal, especially live press. It's weird to relax in those situations. I've gotten like much better at it, especially just then seeing the same people over and over. You go to the same press outlets and you get to know people and that sort of thing. But like Good Morning America is definitely one of them where it's so organized, but they just, they like shove you out there and you're like, well, okay, well now we're live and there's a whole bunch of people outside and we're just, we're going to do the best we can. And, me, like I said on your podcast, I'm like, don't swear on live TV. you got these like weird pressure things. It's like a pressure cooker and it's it's a weird thing. And the first time, like I'm trying to think the first time that I was able to like really process that because I had done stuff when I was little, like I think it was like KTLA I did when I was 5 or 6 on my first TV show and I didn't know what was going on. There was like a pet snake that came out and whatever they were talking about at the time. And that was
Oh my
fun.
God.
I wasn't like actually aware of what it was, and like the fact that
Yeah.
people were seeing it live. But I think when I started promoting PLL, that was the biggest time that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what a press tour is, and this is what's expected of you. And I spent a whole day going, or a couple days driving to and from all these places in New York. And it's a weird vibe. But it can be fun if you take advantage of it in the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed all of it. I was like, maybe in another life I'm going to be a TV host, because I'm so comfortable in front of a camera. It like is kind of scary. Taylor's like, I was so relaxed every time. And even, I mean, Taylor still gets nervous because he doesn't like live stuff. And he's like nervous. And I'm just like, do, like, okay, let's go. And he's like, what, who are you? Like, you don't do this. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. we're just going out there. We're just talking. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a skill, and you definitely have it. I mean, just being able to interview people on podcasts, like it's a great skill, and it's awesome that you can just be relaxed in those situations. I think that's, I don't, I can't speak for Taylor, but I think that is one of those things where you're like, you're used to doing certain things a certain way, and you're used to being like your own person in a certain way. And then, it's kind of this, like, people can perceive you in any way, shape, or form. You don't, you hope you like come across in some way, but that's not always the case. And I think also I'm just always so paranoid about clickbait and like turning my words into something that they're not,
Oh yeah.
But that's great.
Yeah, maybe that's why I was so relaxed. No one's gonna get clickbait with my words, so I don't have to worry about it.
I think maybe it is too, like the content of what you're speaking about, you're passionate about it, and it so well, and and that it's a wonderful thing. Is it, and I'm sure you get this question a lot, so I'm sorry if it's redundant, but how is it being married to somebody that's so in the public eye, that's like people are crazy about? Like, was that a weird transition? Did COVID almost help maybe because everyone was just kind of like in a funky position? Did you get eased into it? All of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like if a normal person were to date any famous person, Taylor would be like at the top of the list, because he is just so down to earth and is so like, I couldn't date someone that is like what people think is like a famous person or whatever. Like he is just so laid back and is so normal, for lack of a better word. He's so approachable. He's just Taylor. I call him my golden retriever because he's just the sweetest thing. It's just very applicable. He's my golden retriever. So I think like meeting him, I was like, it was very easy at first because you don't feel like you're with a celebrity when, you're with him. He's just so normal. He doesn't like have a posse and I don't know, do weird things. He's just normal. I don't even know if celebrities do. That's what I think normal people think about people. But
people, yeah, they have. I don't personally, but yes.
He's with him at his house. There's no one around. But definitely an adjustment. And I mean, still, I think it still is. I don't think it's ever like not going to be an adjustment. But the first couple of years were like, oh, like we can't do this, or like. Right. Like the first time I went to visit him in London when he was filming, like right after we started dating, and we like couldn't hold hands in public. And I was like, this is interesting, but I respect it. It's fine. And definitely like we probably waited like 10 months to like officially like announce it on social media. So I think I had time to like ease into it, because we would like go out and like sometimes there would be paparazzi and we like get in the car and he would like put the sunshade down and like do all these things, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, and he like explains it all to me after. But we also realized, because we've kind of been like talking about this recently, that Taylor doesn't prep me at all for anything. Like even like the talk shows, there was no prep for it. Like even like anything you can think of, he kind of just like has let it happen. I think because he doesn't, I don't know, he just doesn't put that much like attention to it. So he just really has never really like instructed me anything. Like the first time there was paparazzi, or I don't know, like the Today Show going out to events or whatever it may be, he's never really like been like, okay, so this is going to happen. We're going to do this. This is going to be this. And then this is going to happen. He just lets it happen, which I kind of think is cool.
Yeah.
Because I've just kind of gotten to like live things. And maybe if he were to like explain things to me, I would maybe like get a little nervous or something.
Yeah.
Or like in my head about something. But it's definitely an adjustment. I definitely like look at life differently now, or like when I'm with him and when I'm not with him, like just because I'm so protective of him. So whenever we go out anywhere, I'm literally like on a radar, like
Right.
looking at everyone. Like I know everyone in the restaurant. I know exactly where they're looking, what they're wearing. When we're going through airports, like I'm just always on guard. So that's been, I mean, I wouldn't trade it because I love him and, you know, we get to do all these fun things and I love being able to protect him from people.
Crazy women.
I mean, you would be surprised. They're all over ages and everything, as you know, but yeah, it's still something that we're navigating and learning. And I think probably still will be, especially because he's even experiencing things for the first time with like social media, because that wasn't really around when Twilight and everything was going on. Yeah. So
yeah,
definitely still things to navigate, but overall it's been great because he's just Taylor. He's just so normal and is so special. So it hasn't been too crazy. And if it ever gets confusing or something, he's really good at like explaining it if I have questions of how things work or why things are a certain way.
Yeah. And, just a second, the fact that he has always been that way. It's true. He's still the same, which is awesome. Yeah. It's awesome to see. Same silly Taylor is like the same silly adult Taylor, which is really great. And it's hard to keep. I love that you guys can still, you know, have that normalcy almost, you know, and I think that is a testament to the way that you guys decide to live your lives. Because it could easily be the opposite way. You could easily, you know, pretend that you're, you know, not pretend, because that's not true either, but create a lifestyle that kind of fits that celebrity ideal that people, you know, think. I feel like it's a choice. I feel like it's a very conscious choice. You can put yourself out there. You can be less private. You can do things to create that atmosphere, or you can go home and watch your TV shows and have that like life together and see your friends and not, you know, make it such a big deal, if you will. The holding hands thing, or just the being in public thing, was that to protect you?
I think it was both, which I completely understood. I think before like going public on social media, I kind of need to be vetted out first to make sure that, you know, Taylor saw, which I totally get and absolutely agree with. Like he wanted to make sure that this was going to be like an actual thing. And I mean, me too, obviously different for different reasons, but yeah, that was just, you know, to make sure that, you know, he saw something that he could see going all the way to marriage with. And I still respect him for it. And a lot of people ask, like, was that hard? Like, did you feel like he was trying to hide you? And I think I know the answer is no, because he has always done such a good job at like telling me how much he loves me and how important I am to him, and, you know, all the things. And even like when we go out, or when we were, and we weren't like Instagram official yet, he would always introduce me to everyone and always made me part of conversations, and he just really included me in everything that he did. So that definitely, you know, helped. And I loved him. So I was like, if you need some time to figure this out, like I totally respect that for you. So yeah, definitely like wasn't something that I ever planned on dealing with ever, but here we are.
Yeah. It's a really unique position to be in. It's not, you know, it's not something that is common really. And I feel like there's this perception of, you know, when somebody comes or starts dating a celebrity, and if they're not in the public eye, it's a huge part of judgment, trying to figure you out because people don't know much about you. So it's like looking into everything, and that's super intense. And I don't think a lot of people think about what that flip side is like, you coming into that, like someone starting a relationship with somebody that's in the public eye, and there's so much that comes with that, is difficult. It's like difficult, almost more difficult than somebody on the other side. And I do agree, not vetting per se, but like I feel like that makes complete sense to me, that you wait and figure it out before it becoming a crazy thing. And I think too, like in the public eye with kids, that's a huge issue with a lot of celebrities too, is how do they protect their kids? How do they navigate that that part of their life? How private do you want it? There's so many different ways of going about it. I know a celebrity who had a really difficult time keeping their kids out of the public eye. And there was this one instance where it happened by accident, and their nanny was with the kids instead, and they were both doing press. And the paparazzi figured out that it was their kids, and they were in, I think it was Tokyo. They were mobbed and chased down the street, and it was terrifying. Oh, wow. And just, it's just to get a picture. It's just to get a glimpse of their kid. And it's just like, it gives me chills. Like, I can't even imagine that happening with Hendrix. And it's such a like debate of whether, like, it's a personal decision, how much you want to make public, how much you want to keep private. And, I obviously hope that my career progresses. It's like that side effect of like, the more people are aware of your work, the more people are aware of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I know my husband and I have kind of like made the decision of trying to find that like middle balance where it's like, here's, pictures of him. He's obviously a huge part of our lives. This is what we're doing, but we're controlling it. Excuse me. And I think that's like the biggest thing, is like that glimpse, okay, here he is. And now, like, can you please respect our privacy? It's a challenging thing. It's a hard thing to navigate. And there's so many variables. It depends on what you're in. It depends on, how famous you are. It depends on so many different things. But it is a weird thing to navigate. But I feel like you're doing it very well.
Thank you.
And I think it's wonderful how open you are about it too, because I think that's also a thing. Like if you were so hush hush about your relationship, people end up making things up. They fill that space with bullshit, essentially. Yeah. And I think, as far as I can tell, my small perception of the two of you is wonderful. And I think you guys are handling it great. And it's so sweet, and you respect each other, and it's very obvious, just the way that you guys communicate, how much love is there. And that's really nice and sweet to see. How was your wedding?
It was so great.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh. It was literally like the most perfect thing ever. I was just waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened. And I was like, what?
That's awesome.
It was a dream. I'm still like amazed that our wedding looked like that. It was just wild. I remember when my dad and I started walking down the aisle, I knew exactly what everything was going to look like. Like, we planned out everything. I was very involved. And we're walking down, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And while we're like standing on the little like podium, I don't know, little stage riser thing, Taylor and our pastor, like I'm literally just like looking around, because we got married in a vineyard, and we had this pretty like pergola thing put up with this pretty curtain, and we're literally in the middle of the vines. The sky is like this blue and pink and orange. It was just wild. And I'm standing up there with all these beautiful flowers, and Taylor just staring at me. It's golden hour. I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, this is the most insane moment I've like ever experienced. Like, it was just so beautiful. I kept like looking around, and I was like, okay, Taylor, you need to focus on what's going on. But I was like trying to take everything in, because it was just so beautiful that I could not believe that was my wedding. So awesome. It was so great. We had a small wedding, and We had like 90 people, so smaller than most. But it was at a winery that we love and a place that we love, and get to go back and visit, which is something that we really wanted because we're those people that are like really emotionally attached to things. And our wedding venue, we wanted to be able to like go back to, especially Taylor. He was like, I want to like be able to go back here like one day and not just have it be a venue that I'm never going to see again. And it's a winery that we love. So we go there all the time and get to see it.
Nice.
But yeah, it was just a magical weekend.
Love that. And the photos were stunning. I love weddings, and I feel the same way about our wedding. Like, I was shocked at how seamless everything went, and we spent a long time planning it, and I have all the same emotions that you have. I love attending weddings. I have a hard time being in them. I love my friends, but being a bridesmaid is a totally different experience. I won't name names, but I love attending weddings, and like, I don't know, it's just so special and sweet, and such a like a short moment in someone's life, but it just means so much. We had about,
I feel like I look at weddings different now, like going to weddings after like being in one. I'm like, I think I appreciate it more because I'm like, how much freaking work goes into it. We were just at one, and it was like this small like little backyard thing, and it was like the sweetest thing, and I was just like, I like felt more emotional about it too, because I was like, oh my gosh, remember? I felt old. I was like, remember when we did this? I'm like, that was 6 months ago. Taylor, calm down.
It's true though.
They're just so sweet.
Yeah, it's such, it's that like outward, complete, vulnerable display of your love and commitment. It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, like I don't love rom-coms, but I am obsessed with other people's love. I think it's so sweet and special. I love seeing it. Yeah, weddings are really great. So I kind of ask this question a lot. It's a weird transition, so I kind of apologize. But one thing I always ask women on my podcast is, and it doesn't have to be sexual, it's what makes you feel sexy?
Oh.
No pressure. Just like me on your podcast, I was like, oh, it's a good question, but my mind blanks.
Honestly, I think like feeling accomplished, like whether that be that I just like cleaned my entire house, or I just like reorganized the bathroom, or I just filmed a killer episode. Like, I feel like after like accomplishing thing, I'm a big tasks person. So like I love a checklist. So I think like completing a checklist, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel good about myself right now. So that'd probably be it. That's probably the nerdiest answer you've ever gotten. No, but that's my answer.
I get versions of that, and that's what I love about it. Like it's that feeling of being sexy. I feel like it's obviously connected to sex or like something sexual a lot, but I feel like as a woman, I it's like the accomplishment, or like taking my vitamins and doing all my wellness and self-care, and it's like I feel good today, and feeling good about what I'm wearing, or like whatever that might be, that feeling of accomplishment. I'm totally with you on that one. That's why I love to ask that question, because it's just so everyone has like a very different answer and perception of what that means. And well, I love that answer. What makes you feel proud to be a woman?
Oh.
And I'm sorry if you can hear my kid in the background. Like,
oh my gosh,
he's going crazy out there.
Aw. Maybe just like everything that women have like been doing lately. I feel like in the past, I had like this moment this morning where I was like putting on, this is very random, but also very highly famous people, but I was like putting on my like Rhode lip treatment, and I just ordered a Haley smoothie from Erewhon, and I'm wearing like my Skims bra, and I was like, these are all like women run businesses that like, these are women that are just freaking crushing it. And I feel like there's so many friends that I've made, whether it's creators or like product-based companies, or even just, you know, nurses that I know that are just like absolutely killing it in whatever workforce they're in. So I think maybe that I literally had that moment this morning and I was like, I'm literally like wearing a bunch of like females things right now that are just like absolutely crushing their companies and doing such cool things. So I think that I feel like females are like really stepping into their like, not that they haven't before, but I feel like there's a lot more women like stepping into business, and whether it be, you know, social media or whatever it is. So I think that.
Yeah, I love that. And I completely agree. Um, it is really cool to see that. And women in business, that's like such a big part of women in the nude as well, is because it's it's such an empowering thing. And I, like you say, I do see a lot of that, like, you know, products and whatever. And I can't talk about it yet, but a girlfriend of mine and my husband and her husband are creating this company, and it's really cool. She's so involved in it, and she's such a badass. And she, you know, we couldn't do it without her. And we looked at each other the other day, and we're like, oh my god, yeah, this is a woman-owned company. We did this, and it's like such an accomplishment. And there's so much work that goes into it, but that is also something that, yeah, proud to be a woman. Just based on, I feel like, the initiative that we have, whether it comes to like ourselves, you know, if you want a family, if you want to be in business, and the amount of work that takes. And you know, there's so many issues that are still surrounding women, but I feel like I just feel like this time, I don't know if it's just because of social media and we have access to so many different things, that we see all the work that's gone into it, and the path that we're on, and how capable we are, and that just basically just not taking no for an answer, and being able to get there is such a cool thing. You know, you with your platform and whatever outlet other women have, I feel like it's really important to find that, no matter how big
Yeah,
or small. You know, like as a woman, finding something that empowers you is
yeah,
so important, and not being defined by those normal things that, you know, have always kind of just been placed on females as like a job or a requirement of something that you need to do to complete your, you know, it's like checking that off as a woman. um
yeah,
I was speaking to a friend about that recently, and how the way that she grew up, she had like two options. It was, you know, get married and have babies, or, you know, get into a job that was like respectable for a woman, and then get married and have babies. And it's just such an interesting thing. And there's nothing wrong with that by any means. I mean, I from very little knew I wanted to, you know, get married and have a baby, like, or have kids. Like, that was something that I personally always wanted, and that never changed. um but I think just giving like women the platform, or like the new generation of girls, giving them the idea that they can really be anything that they want to be, not just like this small little pool of things that are like expected or accessible for them. It's like, no, seriously, what do you want to do? um
yeah,
and I love exploring that, and seeing just, you know, what that means to people, what ideas and things that they want, you know, that they want to accomplish, that maybe even just 10 years ago wouldn't have been accepted.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
for
cool
sure.
thing.
Yeah, I feel like we're at a very cool spot of like, even like jobs have just like totally changed, especially like because of the pandemic. Like everyone's like, majority of people are home now still. And there's just, I feel like there's a whole world of jobs that have just opened up, and you can kind of just like not do whatever, but there's so many opportunities to, you know, be picky about what you want to do. You don't have to go in and work that 9 to 5. You can do like creative development for a social media, for their social media, and like do cool things with companies. And yeah, there's so many cool things happening.
Yeah, I feel that way in general too, just about that, you know, Gen Z and millennials, like our generation and younger. It's like, I think we've taken a lot of those expectations off of each other. It's like, yeah, you can figure it out. You can create jobs, you can create spaces for yourself. You don't have to
Yeah,
conform like to that 9 to 5, or even just like the college route. You know, there's so many things that you
Yeah.
can do that, you know, fulfill that creative outlet or that entrepreneurial outlet, or, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like we just look at things differently. We're looking at things through a lens of what is missing and how can we fix it.
Yeah.
And I
So
love
true.
that about us.
Yeah.
I love that
So
for
I.
us. Uh, yeah, it's a cool time. And I always want to, because I naturally fall into like a pessimistic outlet or outlook, and I like need to remind myself there's so many positive things going on. My husband's really good at that. He's always like excited about what's coming next, and whether that's like technology or business or whatever it is, he's much better at that. Thank goodness I have him, because otherwise, I don't know. I feel like I'd just kind of be, you know, I don't know, sad about it all, or looking at the things that that don't matter. You know, looking at the positive things are so important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I just really enjoyed talking with you. I really enjoyed talking with you on the squeeze too, and catching up with Taylor. But this is so fun. Sorry, Taylor, no boys allowed. But I really enjoyed it. You're just so great to talk to, and so refreshing. So I really appreciate it. I know our listeners are just gonna love this, and just, you know, getting to know you more is just really cool.
That's so sweet. Well, likewise, thank you for having me. And I absolutely love what you're doing. And I think it's so cool that you're giving a cool little space for women to talk and empower each other. I think that's really awesome and always needed.
Thanks. I'm going to try and take that compliment to heart.
Yes. Take it.
Well, I will be linking all of your amazing things that you're doing, from your foundation to the squeeze, to your social platforms. And I want all of our listeners to go and find more about you and support everything that you're doing, because it's really wonderful. And I think everyone should join your community. So more Tay everywhere would be nice.
Thank you. I'll take that compliment.
Good. And that's a wrap on another empowering episode of Women in the Nude. The conversation doesn't stop here. Stay connected with us by following us on Instagram, Women in the Nude Podcast, for behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, thought-provoking quotes, and updates on upcoming episodes. Subscribe to us on YouTube for full-length video podcasts, Sasha Pieterse, as well as visiting our website, Women in the Nude Podcast, for more resources and past episodes. Thank you for joining us on this naked journey to wellness and self-love. Remember, vulnerability is strength, and by sharing our stories, we empower each other. Special thanks to my amazing producer, Hudson Sheaffer, aka my hot husband, for making this podcast possible.